There we go. Got it finally. All right. And Jayo Pangyo. Getting cool outside. Double workouts. Delta terminology. Learning in the language. And a move to Taiwan? Shaisa. Monday, August 29th, 2022. I'm Steven Sersky. Hope you folks are doing well. This year is my audio digest if you're just tuning in. And I publish this every Monday to Friday. So for the next week, you can try this out. Listen 5 times a week. I try to post pretty regularly between, I record this late in the Beijing evening, usually about an hour and a half before I go to bed. So if I'm ever yawning, that's why. And yes, I have sort of thought about doing this earlier, but one of the things I've focused on here with this this daily audio podcast is to talk about some of the things that sort of happen in the evening, because it's usually when I have a lot of time to get other things done that aren't work related, and as a result, if I spend all day working, then I don't usually get around to doing other stuff until after 5:30 or so, right? So that would be the idea, is to talk about some of these things. Now, luckily this weekend I didn't work, so Saturday, Sunday I was free, and I was able to get some other stuff done, notably the Delta stuff, which I've started looking at. So yeah, this is the my audio digest. I have started live streaming it as well on YouTube. You can watch that, and I've been slowly piecing together a method of. I was thinking about actually putting up a separate website for this, just because it would keep things sort of separated from my podcast, and then that way, well, we'll see. There's this one, and then I also have a language vlog that I've been that I was working on this weekend as well. So, but this one, maybe I'll just I do put the links. I put the live stream links on the show notes for all these episodes, which you can find on my website, stevensersky.com, and you can watch the rebroadcast. You can watch the stream again if you like, and have a laugh at what I look like. Currently growing out my beard. Not a lot of people are commenting on that thing's huge, and this one I'll tell you, because this one actually this time round that I'm growing out my beard, I have basically not touched it. This is untouched, pure mountain, like in the bush sort of. Haven't seen a razor in a long time, or trimmers or anything like that. I've never grown it out this way before. Last time I grew out my beard, it was I actually sort of shaped it a little bit as I went along, notably along the cheekbones, which I might start doing later on in September as this beard growing project comes to an end, at least for this decade, this year anyway. We'll see. But whether or not I trim it all off at once, I don't know. I kind of like having a longer beard, but at the same time, it is all over the place. I mean, I understand it's like, hey, Bushman, we do have modern technology that can take care of that, right? You don't need to look like that. I get it. I got it. Anyway, getting cool outside. Went out for a run this morning, and yeah, like in a t-shirt. Sorry, I wore my long sleeve shirt today because I was like, even walking outside, I was like, geez, it's still cold. Yesterday I went out for a run in a t-shirt, and I was like, nah, this is getting cool already. And I know 3 weeks ago, which is hard to believe. 3 weeks ago I was saying, oh, it's so hot outside, careful with hydration, 80% humidity, and now it's like it's literally dropped so much in that time. It's actually quite surprising, but I did manage to get my double workouts in today. Today was the Steel Club workout in the morning, and then the squat and 20 in the afternoon, both of which I'm happy to say that they're getting easier. At the same time, I know that I could probably do more with them. Like I've sort of just kept on repeating the same sort of routines and stuff like that, mainly because I haven't felt like changing anything up. It's mindless and I can get it done. But I know, for instance, with the steel club. One of the things that it is actually kind of a heavy steel club. So it's 10 kilograms. And I knew it was heavy. I knew it was a touch too heavy when I first bought it, thinking that I'd build up the strength for it. Now, the problem with that approach is that the steel club and doing those sort of ballistic movements, even with the steel club is different from working with a kettlebell and different from working with dumbbells and things like that. So it's you do need to work on your shoulders, your like all the little muscles that sort of support the big muscles. That's one thing that if you're going to be doing some of these ballistic movements, you can't swing a 10 kilo. I can't. Okay, I can't. I cannot swing a 10 kilo steel club the way that I would, move around a kettlebell, and like definitely not the same way that you'd swing two lighter ones. Now, if you go heavy with these steel clubs and even the mace bells, you can go ballistic, but then even still, you have to learn the technique of swinging these things, because if you don't, you could hurt yourself. If you don't hit yourself, you could hurt yourself by moving in a way that your body's not used to, the muscles aren't conditioned to doing, and it might just be too heavy to move in that direction, right? So it's you do have to be a little bit aware of how these things are meant to be used. I always just kind of figured they were like swords, and I was like, well, I'll just throw it around like a sword. Mostly because when I bought it, it was 2 years ago, last year. I think I was watching Vikings at that time, and I might have had a couple of shots prior to purchasing it, thinking, yeah, well, of course, Vikings had swords. Because a kid had swords, I can have a sword. Well, I won't have a sword. I'll get a steel club because at least that's acceptable in modern cities, right? You can do that. So that's why I ended up getting with the 10 kilos. And the reason I got the 10 kilo was because my lightest kettlebell is 14 kilos. And I figured anything less, I could actually just swap out with different water bottles of different sizes. And I did that. And I do see the problem with it. First of all, water bottles are not meant to be swung around, so the handles can fall off. But the other thing that you have to be careful, and I've talked about, using these soap bottles and like detergent bottles and stuff like that. You have to tape them because the plastic is sharp, and if you don't tape that, it's going to rip your skin off. But you can do it, and like 3 liters is 3 kilos. So, or 4.5 liters is 4.5 kilos. So you can measure it pretty well like that. And I have a series of these things that I use for different sort of lightweight, kind of like if you had 2 smaller club bells, you could do it that way, or 2 smaller kettlebells, you can move them in the same way. And that was the idea, was to have something lighter and then use the steel club as a heavier ballistic. Now, today I've purchased a 6 kilo mace bell. So I just bought it, so I'm not sure when it's going to come in. It's like $20, 117 kwai or something. I'm like, sure, why not? We also got paid today, so that was that contributed to the buying of new stuff. Now the difference. Why would I buy a 6 kilo steel mace, not a 6 kilo steel club? Couldn't I use one of these, Jimmy rigs that I was talking about? Well, with the mace bell, the weight is on the far end. So with this, there's 2 things. One, it's not going to be heavy enough to really do the heavy swings and stuff like that I can do with the steel club. But at the same time, I can still use the swing. It's as if you're swinging one of those detergent bottles at the end of a stick, right? So it's a little bit different. It's only 6 kilos. I got a 6 kilos. I'm like, I'm not sure if I trust myself with this thing just yet. But the other thing is that in using a lighter one like this, I can do those different, I guess you'd call them thrust movements with the steel club and the steel mace and with the mace. The idea being that you can. It seems like it's easy to move 6 kilos in one direction repetitively, but then you try to move it away from your body, and you realize that the weight, even a light weight, moving it from your hip to like diagonally across to the other shoulder, out in front of you, a foot away, 2 feet away, arm's length, it's not the easiest thing. I mean, you do that a couple times, 10, 15 times, and you get pretty sore. So that's the idea that I have for this. And if I feel so inclined going into winter, I might get another one, a heavier mace bell. We'll see if that, I don't know. It's an idea. It's just one of those things where how much stuff do I need lying around, and how much stuff do I want to have here before it's kind of like, not that I'm thinking about getting a gym membership. It doesn't make sense to get a gym membership because, again, I'd rather spend a 3,000 renminbi every year on buying stuff that I could actually use on a regular basis and not have to wait for it and not wonder if like what's been touching this thing. Or who's been touching this thing, I should say. So that's sort of what I've been thinking. That's the first gym purchase that I've made. The second one, I was talking to a colleague here, and he said that he has a rowing machine in his apartment. I'm like, what? You have a rowing machine? Are you what? How? I know people have these things. I just didn't think anyone I knew had one. Sure enough, I guess it's in his maybe it's in his landing area, or I thought it was the kitchen, but maybe it's the landing area. Apparently, it folds up. He has a Concept 2, and Concept 2 is actually a decent machine. Apparently, I mean they're 7,000, 8,000 renminbi new. And I'm like, I'm not paying that. I'll get a used one. So I'm looking for a used one right now. They're about 3,000 used. The problem is that as my apartment is rather small, and there's limited room. Like even now, it's full of stuff that I'm going. I'm not sure which half of the stuff can go away, but some of it could leave. Given probably, even if I got rid of the clothes, though. It's like that doesn't really free up any room. The floor space itself is restricted in how much stuff I can actually have on. And a rowing machine, I mean, it's not like I just put it on the wall. Or could I? Oh, that does give me an idea. I could get some shelves put in, but not for the rowing machine. No, of course not. So that's sort of the idea, is to I don't know. I was thinking this. I was talking to him, and he's like, well, he uses it all the time. I was thinking, well, actually not a bad idea, because going into the winter, if I don't have to go cycling outside, I'd rather not, because I've been doing these, off day sort of, what would you call them, workouts, right? So the idea being that on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I would do rowing or cycling instead of running, right? So that was the idea. Going forward, though, I mean, going into the winter, is it possible? It could be. It's certainly an idea. It's just whether or not noise, cost, kind of, but not really. Doesn't really matter. But then also space. Like it's where would I put it? Where would I put it? Where there's a will, there's a way. Put it in the hallway, wake up. No, I'm not going to do that. No, terrible. Someone would take it. I know they would. But so we'll see how that works out. I did start the Delta terminology book reading, Scott Thornbury's A to Z of ELT. So this is like your standard terminology book for this Delta for the ESL industry. And it was recommended to me to just start reading this thing. So I spent part of Saturday and Sunday going through some of the terminology that is in this book, and it's just a book of definitions. That's all it is. And so I've been reading through it. I find it fascinating. I'm not going to lie. It's one of these things where I was reading about first language acquisition, and then order of acquisition, like needs analysis was like, that seems like a no-brainer. They actually, needs analysis is just finding out what your student needs or what the learner needs, and then developing a syllabus that matches that sort of thing. Pretty standard stuff. So I was going through some of this, starting this prep work. I figured if I could spend an hour every day reading in English, which is not as hard as reading in Chinese for an hour every day, or even like doing my vocab is now taking me an hour a day on for Chinese, which I say it's taking me an hour a day. It takes me an hour whenever I get around to it because it's difficult to sit down there for even 15 minutes to get the Chinese characters done. I should start doing that. First thing in the morning, I should just wake up and automatically start reviewing Chinese characters. Got a David Goggins that, right? You can have a nap, or you can get up and do your Chinese vocab. Thinking, one of the things, but with studying this Delta, because the funny thing is, as I've signed up for this Delta course, I'm now hearing that a few more people are leaving. Like, people I thought were staying are actually leaving. I was like, okay, that's what have I done here where I've signed up? I seem to be like the only one not getting something here. You're right. I'm too comfortably ensconced in my apartment that I just signed a new contract for today. Just paid rent for the first 3 months too. So, I mean, I'm here for at least 3 months. After that, good question. But the Delta is going to take 3 months, and there's a third module after this, part 3. So that'll occupy me until like March or April of next year, which is hard to, like, I don't even want to think about that, to tell you the truth, because it's a long ways away. And given in that time with the Delta, I'm going to be doing HSK 5 as well. I mean, this is just insanity. What am I doing here? Why am I taking on so much of this? But I will tell you, the Delta, so I'll give you one little reason why. The Delta helps feed into the idea of language acquisition, developing sort of a better methodology of not just learning, but of teaching languages and being in the ESL industry. And I don't seem to be leaving it anytime soon. I figured the Delta is a good diploma to have. HSK stuff, I mean, it's because I've been in China for so long. Now, if I wasn't in China, I've said this before, where else would I go? And so one of the things that does keep me entertained, distracted from the fact that I have nowhere else to go, is studying Chinese. So I continue to do that. And then, of course, if you've been paying attention last year or so, to distract myself from that distraction, I've started studying another language that cannot be named at the moment. So that all of this, it's like I'm just distracting myself from what? I don't know. What else would I do? What do people do with their time? Good question. Was thinking though, because with reading all this Delta terminology and talking to a few people about the HSK 5 stuff and everything, learning the language and the culture, like is it necessary to survive and to thrive in your adopted culture? Because one of the things that as an expat, we sort of skip across that, and maybe people who never live overseas would never really appreciate this, how you want or you need to feel comfortable where you are. And for some people, particularly expats, you feel comfortable not knowing a lot of stuff, but like it can be disorienting, especially if you remember back the first time you lived anywhere else, how it was kind of refreshing, but then it can get aggravating because there's a point where you're oblivious to what people are talking about. They could be talking about you. They could not be. As you learn more of the language, you find out that they are talking about you sometimes. But are you able to respond? And then sometimes when you are aware of what's going on, but you can't interact because your language level isn't good enough, that's what drives a lot of friction as well, and can cause some issues when you're living overseas. If you're not able to satisfy, like to resolve that issue, to reconcile that issue, then how long do you have? Typically, basically, whenever you move to a new place, it's 6 months, 7 months of a honeymoon period. Then after that, you sort of know within that first year whether or not you'll stay again. And then after that, I mean, I guess how easy is it for you to just keep on doing what you're doing? Whereas here, it's like it's a WeChat message. Hey, you staying for another year? Hey, you want to come in and sign a contract? Sure. Why not? Whatever. Not like my landlord who has been asking for money every week for the last 4 or 5 weeks. And I'm going, how bad are you at money management? I paid you a month ahead of time, and you didn't give me my money back. I was asking for it because I knew you. I I didn't know you were going to misspend all your money and be so desperate. But I mean, I asked for the money back so I could earn the interest instead of you, but you chose to keep it. And now she's been asking me since the beginning of the month, can you give me money? Can you give me money? Can you give me money? I'm like, no, I can't. I get paid once a month like everybody else in this country. Reconcile yourself with not knowing, with being uncomfortable, basically, is what it comes down to. I moved to Taiwan. So this was interesting. I know I'm running up over the 20 minutes as it is right now. But one of these things did pop up in this conversation with my colleague here who also has the rowing machine. And he was talking about Taiwan. I'm like, Taiwan? Wait a minute. It's like China. I mean, Chinese speaking. And what about tickets? So this is actually became a question because on Saturday sometimes I get these, there's Expat Focus here in Beijing. They publish these lists of flights that are still available from mainland of China, Beijing, right? And I'm going, okay, well, I see one to Vancouver. So it's, let's see, through Air China. Now I have to make this clear. It's through Air China. This is not like a discount travel broker or anything. That is through Air China. How much is it to go from Beijing to Vancouver round trip? And I picked 2 dates, which was actually kind of not the best dates to pick either. September 28th to October 13th. Now, for those of you who are familiar with those dates, National Day falls right in between that, which means all the tickets are jacked up. Those ticket prices did not go down very much from that price. What was the price? 73,000 renminbi, which is about $13,000 Canadian. And that's how families get separated. Well, there's probably other reasons too, but that'd be one of them, $13,000. Or, so then, being the budget backpacking traveler that I have been in the past, I go, well, that's not going to happen. I'm not spending $13,000. I'd like to make that money so I could do it without thinking about it. But given that you're spending $13,000, get the business class. You may as well. They'll treat you like an actual human at that point. But with $13,000, you can do a lot. You could travel through the whole country, regardless of the Omicron, whatever it is what's going on now, literally for months. Make your way down to Shenzhen, cross over to Hong Kong, fly over to Taiwan, and then sit there for a couple days or weeks or whatever, and then fly back to Canada. You know how much the flights were from Taipei to Vancouver? $1,300 Canadian round trip. I did choose different dates, though. I chose later on in October. Not like it really matters. So I was thinking, yeah, it's a $12,000 differential. Substantial chunk of change. But so got thinking, actually, would a move to Taiwan be in the cards, sort of thing? It's an interesting idea. I don't think I'm leaving anytime soon, especially not if I start doing this Delta thing. Although, to be fair, everything is flexible. I can get out. I can drop out of this. I'd have to pay back the funding that I got, whatever. But that can be taken care of. HSK, could pick that up in Taiwan as well and keep on going. Maybe even transition to traditional characters instead. No, not just yet. That would be a very difficult. Yeah, it's like it's traditional characters. You haven't even gotten to HSK 5 yet. That's kind of a step up. So that was the idea. Moving to Taiwan, taking $13,000 and seeing what you could do with it. Sort of like on the way from Beijing down to southern, like to Hong Kong. I think you can do a lot with that, sort of thing. Whether or not it happens, it's not going to happen anytime soon. So safe and sound so far here in Beijing. Committed to HSK 5, committed to get at least Delta Module 1 done by December. Then we'll see what happens going forward with that. All right, folks, I'm going to leave it there. I know, taking up your precious time. Hope you were entertained. Hope you learned something. And all the show notes, tracks, and vids are available on my website, stevensersky.com. That's where you can find all the archives for this daily audio digest. And of course, come on back tomorrow where I yik yak about some other stuff that's going on. All right, folks, thanks for listening. I appreciate it. We'll talk again. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.